Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. In the bustling metropolis of New Horizon, where towering skyscrapers pierced the clouds and autonomous vehicles zipped through the sky like metallic dragonflies, the world had finally achieved something resembling utopia. It was a future where science had triumphed over the mundane limitations of nature, where humanity had unlocked the secrets of life itself. Cloning, once a controversial and ethically fraught topic, had become as common as the next technological advancement. Clones were now part of everyday life, indistinguishable from their human counterparts, save for one small difference: they were created adults, with no childhood memories, no emotional baggage, and, unfortunately, no real understanding of human social norms. On a bright morning in New Horizon, 5 freshly born clones were released from the sleek, sterile environment of the central cloning facility into the vibrant chaos of the city. Each clone was identical in appearance, tall, athletic, with symmetrical features that bordered on unnerving perfection. Yet, despite their physical capabilities, their minds were blank slates, programmed with only the most basic knowledge needed to function in society. They had no memories, no experiences, and most crucially, no emotions. As they stepped out of the facility, the clones were handed a small device, a sleek, rectangular gadget that fit comfortably in their palms. This was the Social Adaptation Guidebook, a tool designed by the top sociologists and psychologists of the era to help clones navigate the complexities of human interaction. The guidebook was well-intentioned, but it was overly simplistic, filled with generalizations and vague instructions that often led to more confusion than clarity. The clones had been assigned different roles in society, each carefully chosen to integrate them seamlessly into the human world. Clone 1, who decided to go by the name Alan, was assigned to an office job at a major tech company. Clone 2, who chose the name Beth, was placed in a residential neighborhood to experience suburban life. Clone 3, Charlie, was introduced to a social group as a friend. Clone 4, Daisy, was to experience life as a neighbor in a high-rise apartment building. Lastly, Clone 5, Evan, was placed in a community center, where he was to learn about volunteer work and community service. As they dispersed to their respective roles, the clones felt a sense of anticipation, a vague awareness that they were embarking on a significant journey. However, this awareness was devoid of the excitement or anxiety a human might feel. It was a purely logical recognition of the task ahead. Alan's first day at the tech company was nothing short of a disaster. He walked into the sleek, open-plan office, where employees sat at their workstations, tapping away on holographic keyboards. His social adaptation guidebook had instructed him to greet his coworkers warmly and engage in small talk. However, when Alan approached a group of employees in the break room, he simply stared at them, unsure of how to begin. The guidebook had not provided specific examples of what constituted small talk. "Hello," he said in a monotone voice, his expression blank. "I am Alan." The employees, used to the occasional awkwardness of new hires, smiled politely. "Hi, Alan. Nice to meet you. How's your first day going?" one of them asked. Alan paused, his mind racing to find a suitable response. "It is a day," he replied, his voice flat. The room fell silent, and the employees exchanged puzzled glances. "Well, if you need anything, just let us know," another coworker offered, trying to break the awkwardness. Alan nodded. "Thank you. I will consult the guidebook." The employees assumed he was joking and laughed, but Alan didn't understand why. He simply turned and walked away, leaving them confused and a little unsettled. Meanwhile, Beth was trying to navigate life in a suburban neighborhood. Her guidebook had emphasized the importance of maintaining social relationships with neighbors, so she decided to host a dinner party. However, the concept of hosting was entirely new to her, and the guidebook's instructions were vague at best. It mentioned that inviting people over for a meal was a common way to build relationships, but it did not explain the nuances of such an event. Beth went door to door, inviting her neighbors to the dinner. She used the exact same phrase each time: "Please come to my house at 7 p.m. for dinner. I will prepare food." Her expression was neutral, her tone flat, and her words devoid of the warmth typically associated with such invitations. The neighbors, intrigued by the new arrival and curious about her odd mannerisms, agreed to attend. When they arrived at Beth's house that evening, they were surprised to find the dining table meticulously set with raw ingredients, uncooked vegetables, slabs of meat, and various spices, all neatly arranged. "Please, enjoy your meal," Beth said, motioning to the table. The guests looked at each other in confusion. Beth, the food isn't cooked," one of the neighbors pointed out gently. Beth tilted her head, a puzzled expression crossing her face. The guidebook did not specify that food should be cooked. "I assumed you would know how to prepare it to your liking." The neighbors chuckled awkwardly, unsure of how to respond. They spent the evening trying to explain the concept of cooking to Beth, who listened intently but struggled to grasp the social aspect of the activity. To her, cooking was simply a step in the process of consuming food, not a communal experience. While Beth was learning the hard way about the intricacies of human dining, Charlie was navigating the complexities of friendship. He had been introduced to a group of people by a human companion assigned to help him integrate into social circles. The guidebook had instructed Charlie to engage in friendly banter and share personal experiences to bond with others. However, Charlie had no personal experiences to share, and his attempts at banter were stilted and awkward. "Hey, Charlie, have you ever been to the new VR arcade downtown?" one of his new friends asked. Charlie hesitated. He had no memories of visiting any places, let alone a VR arcade. "I have not been to the VR arcade," he replied. "However, I can provide a detailed analysis of the technology behind it if you are interested." His friend laughed, thinking Charlie was making a joke. "No need, man, we're just talking about having fun." Charlie nodded, but internally, he was confused. The guidebook had not prepared him for conversations where factual information was not the focus. He spent the rest of the evening quietly observing, trying to understand the subtleties of human interaction. Daisy, on the other hand, was dealing with the concept of social distance. The guidebook had instructed her to maintain a respectful distance from others, but it had not explained what that distance should be. As a result, Daisy decided that 6 feet was a safe and appropriate distance to maintain at all times, regardless of the situation. This led to a series of awkward encounters. When a neighbor attempted to hand her a package, Daisy stepped back 6 feet, leaving the neighbor holding the package out awkwardly in the air. When walking down the hallway of her apartment building, Daisy would stop and wait for others to pass, ensuring that she never came within 6 feet of anyone, which often resulted in people awkwardly squeezing by her in the narrow space. Evan, assigned to volunteer work at a community center, found himself in similarly baffling situations. The guidebook had instructed him to offer help whenever possible and show empathy, but it had not provided specific examples of what help or empathy looked like. When an elderly woman asked him to help carry a heavy box, Evan picked it up without a word and began walking away. "Wait! Where are you taking that?" the woman called after him. Evan paused, turning back. "You asked for help. I am helping by relocating the box." The woman shook her head, laughing despite her confusion. "No, dear, I meant just to the other room." Evan corrected his course and placed the box in the room as instructed. I see. The guidebook did not specify the distance or location for helping. As the days passed, the clones became increasingly aware of their shortcomings. They could sense the confusion and discomfort they caused in others, though they did not fully understand why. This awareness led them to gather one evening at a quiet cafe in the city, a place where they could discuss their experiences without the pressure of social interactions. Sitting around a small table, the clones shared their stories, each recounting the misunderstandings and awkward moments they had faced. There was no frustration in their voices, only a clinical observation of facts. "We are not fully understanding human interactions," Alan stated, his tone as neutral as ever. "The guidebook is inadequate," Beth added. "It lacks detail and does not account for the nuances of social behavior. I have observed that humans rely on more than just words to communicate," Charlie said. "There are unspoken rules and emotional cues that we are missing." Daisy nodded. "Social distance is not a fixed measurement. It varies depending on the situation and the individuals involved. We need to learn from humans directly," Evan concluded. "We require real-life examples and mentorship." The clones agreed on a plan. They would seek out human mentors, people who could guide them through the complexities of social interactions, who could teach them not just the what of social norms, but the why behind them. This decision marked a turning point in their integration into society. The next day, each clone approached a human they had interacted with: Alan his coworker, Beth her neighbor, Charlie his new friend group, Daisy her fellow tenants, and Evan the volunteers at the community center. They requested mentorship, explaining that they were eager to learn more about human social customs and emotions. The humans, initially surprised by the clones' direct approach, were touched by their sincerity. Despite their initial hesitations, they agreed to help, seeing it as an opportunity to bridge the gap between clones and humans, and perhaps learn something new themselves. Over the following weeks, the clones spent time with their mentors, absorbing as much as they could. Alan's co-worker introduced him to the concept of humor, explaining that sometimes words were not meant to be taken literally, but as a way to bond with others. Beth's neighbor taught her the importance of social cues in hosting, showing her how to read expressions and gestures to gauge her guests' needs. Charlie's friends invited him to casual outings, where they showed him how to enjoy activities without the pressure of making every moment meaningful. Daisy's fellow tenants helped her understand the fluid nature of personal space, explaining that it was more about comfort and context than a strict rule. Evan's volunteer group guided him in showing empathy, teaching him to listen and respond to emotions rather than just following instructions. As the clones learned, they began to adapt more successfully. They still made mistakes, but now they understood why they had made them and how to correct them. The humans grew fond of their clone protégés, appreciating their unique perspectives and their eagerness to learn. The clones, in turn, started to form genuine relationships, not just based on social expectations, but on mutual respect and understanding. One evening, the clones decided to host another dinner, this time as a way to thank their mentors for their guidance. They planned every detail meticulously, applying everything they had learned. The invitations were sent out with warm, personalized messages, the menu was carefully selected and cooked to perfection, and the seating arrangements were made with comfort in mind. When the night of the dinner arrived, the clones welcomed their guests with smiles, not the stiff, rehearsed smiles they had initially used, but genuine, warm expressions. The atmosphere was relaxed and filled with light conversation, laughter, and a sense of camaraderie. As the evening progressed, the clones decided to share a joke they had crafted together, drawing on what Alan had learned about humor. It was a simple joke, but delivered with perfect timing and an understanding of their audience. To their delight, the joke was met with laughter and applause, a sign that they had finally understood an important aspect of human interaction. As the night drew to a close, the clones and their human guests sat together, reflecting on how far they had come. The clones no longer felt like outsiders trying to mimic human behavior. They had become part of the community, contributing their own unique perspectives while also embracing the complexities of human emotions. The story of the clones' journey was one of growth and adaptation, of learning not just how to fit into society, but how to enrich it with their presence. They realized that while they might never fully grasp every nuance of human emotion, their journey was about more than just fitting in. It was about finding a place where they could belong, just as they were. As the guests bid farewell and the clones cleaned up, there was a sense of satisfaction in the air. They had successfully navigated a world that was foreign to them, and in doing so, they had built bridges between two forms of life, human and clone. It was a journey that had begun with confusion and awkwardness, but had ended with understanding and mutual respect. In the end, the clones had not only adapted to society, they had helped society adapt to them, creating a future where differences were celebrated and where everyone, clone or human, had a place.